and welcome back to the NCMU Podcast, a proud member of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network, where we are dedicated to training up and equipping the next generation of nerd culture ministers and missionaries. My name is Bubba Stalkup, CEO, president, and founder of Love Thy Nerd. And today, friends, I am joined by my good friend, longtime friend of mine, Jamie Harris of Satellite Gaming. He is also CEO and founder of their organization, and he loves it when you say that to him. So just every time you see him, just make sure that you tell him about his C-suite level and that the position that he has. But hey, Jamie, dude, what's up?
Dude, you know me, dude. You gotta start that way. I'm good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Like this episode's been a long time coming. It really has.
Yeah, for real. I think it's the first, dude.
We talked a lot last year, and you know, for 12,000 reasons, it didn't work out. We weren't able to have you at NCMS. Satellite didn't have the presence that we'd hoped that it would have had, both of us, right? But
yeah, 100%.
Moving into 2024, baby, as we start to make some announcements. We got some stuff coming up that we're not going to announce just yet, but hopefully in episode 5 we'll have an announcement for you. But Jamie, dude, so glad to have you. Let's kick it off real quick because we're going to get into. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, a lot to talk about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about? Yes, I do.
I mean, we do.
Jamie Harris. Tell us a little bit about you, about your family, kind of where you live, and what's going on down there.
Yeah. I'm a proud resident of the Pacific Northwest. I love it up here. It rains a lot, and I don't know. We just have a good time. I live in Kaiser, Oregon. I moved here about 9 years ago, something like that. Wife, Jessica, 2 beautiful kids, Miles and Macy. And oh man, I'm loving it. I love it here in Kaiser. I'm originally from Idaho, little podunk town called Emmett. Cheers to Emmett. Love you. See you never again. Here I am in Kaiser. It's actually my second time living here. I've probably been here about 13 years of my adult life, and I just love it, man. It's good.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And so, like, you do a lot, man. Like you're a nerd. So tell us a little bit about some of the spaces that you are exceedingly nerdy in. Like we had a very long conversation before the podcast actually started recording about some of those areas. And I'm not going to lead the witness here, but you got some areas that you're pretty deep in.
Yeah. Now, are you asking like what are my nerdy hobbies? Because that's like a whole thing that could take forever. Or is this like, no, Jamie, let's not go there. We're talking like the ministry spaces. What do you think?
No. Well, hey, we'll get to ministry in just a second. Like I want to know the things. Dude, okay. Like, what are you doing when you're not in ministry?
Oh man, if I'm mad at myself, I'm playing League of Legends. If I'm like, Lord Jesus, help me use this time well, but it's my hobby time, I'm probably drawing. I really enjoy drawing. I was a doodler all through like school. Really enjoyed it. Took like one art class, and I don't know, I felt too much put in a box. But once COVID hit, bro, I just started taking art classes, and I really love it. It's a lot of fun. I watch and observe a lot of other artists, like just appreciating other people's talent. So art. And when I play video games, I really see it as an art form as well. So I really like watching other people do things that I can't, both with a pencil and a mouse and keyboard. It's super fun. So I nerd out on other people being a way cooler human than I am. That's probably the biggest thing I nerd out on.
Yeah, and your art is really great. I've watched you progress over the years.
Yeah,
and some people don't progress nearly as much as they may hope. But I'll say, like, your handle's Jamie Draws, right? Like it's
Jamie Lou Draws. Yeah.
Oh, Jamie Lou
Draws.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, it's funny you say, yeah, LEW. You're like, do you remember? Because I'm not out here like looking for clout on my drawing Instagram, dude. Like, it's just like, for me, it's like, I got to put it somewhere. So, because I'm the kind of guy, like my phone cloud, like my iCloud is always full. So like pictures aren't going to be saved on my phone. But if I put them on Instagram, they're kind of there forever. So
yeah, it's somebody else's problem.
I use that. Yeah, somebody else's cloud they got to worry about filling up. But I appreciate hearing that I progressed, because like I think there's actually like a spiritual lesson in there where I'm going, am I just like hitting my head against the wall with no progress whatsoever? And I look at something I draw, I'm like, this is trash. And then I look at something I drew 5 years ago, and I'm like, okay, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. So I just got to compare myself to my previous self. Yeah, that guy was trash. I just compare myself to my previous self, and not like the guy who did this picture on my wall. You know, like that's insane. And that's his full-time job, and I'll probably never be like that. And that's okay. It's not my goal. So, yeah.
Hey, man, I feel that in a big kind of way. You're going to hear in this episode, listener, viewer, that Jamie and I, we traverse in a lot of the same circles. And one of the circles is there's a camp out in Oregon called Camp Wainema. And I think I've even told this on an episode before, but I met a kid there who did the Rubik's Cube, like just could do everything. He had the craziest Rubik's Cubes and all sorts of stuff, not just the normal stuff, but like crazy things. And he inspired me to learn how to do this impossible task of the Rubik's Cube. And I did it, and I was able to do it. But he didn't care when I told him about it. And I know I'll never be able to do the Rubik's Cube like him, ever. But it's like, even now, I picked one up just the other day to say, can I still do this? Like, do I still got the chops? And even when I messed up, had to start all over, I could get back to it. And so, like, I understand the need, the draw, you know, if I can make a little pun there, the draw to actually get better and like have a skill.
Yeah, man.
Nerds.
And that's the thing, is it is a skill.
You need skills.
You can learn it. People are like, I can't draw. I wasn't born with that. Like, nope. You can learn how to talk. You can learn how to draw. There's some natural talent that comes with the beginning of it that will help you to a certain degree. I think drawing is a learned skill, and anybody can learn it, and it's super cool. So,
I mean, I follow like a dog that paints on TikTok. You know, I've seen like kids that have like way further, you know, advancements of disabilities than anything that I'll ever have, that are legit at drawing,
like world-class musicians and stuff, dude. Like, get out of here, bro.
So any mistake that I could ever think of for not starting or doing a thing, I just like, that is a small part, but is a part of like the Instagram reels and TikToks that I watch is inspirational content, because like they don't let anything get in the way of them progressing. Yeah. But I'm like, and I think learning, not good.
Yeah, I think learning is a skill. Like you talk about, nothing interferes with them progressing. I think learning itself is an art form. Like if you can learn how to draw, you can learn anything. If you can learn how to, what's that old dodgeball? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Like it's just kind of like, if you can learn one thing, you can apply the art of learning to anything else, which, you know, case in point, you can learn how to do nerd ministry, friend. You can learn how to do that.
For sure. Anybody who is interested, like, that's a lot of what satellite gaming does. Like I want to get into that. Maybe this is a good transition point. So cool. Just explain to the uninitiated, what is satellite gaming? Like, how did it start? What was its genesis? And then like kind of what are some of the specifics that you guys are actually doing over there?
Yeah. Satellite Gaming is it's a nonprofit ministry based out of Kaiser, Oregon, and our mission is pointing students to Jesus Christ by building relationships through video games. The way we started was I was a youth pastor at a church, and this was 2016, something, at least 15 maybe, and I just said, man, all of the kids are playing video games. Like there's no and, like they're just all playing video games. And I remember looking at stats at the time. Like, I mean, this is pre-COVID. This was before Fortnite was a thing, you know. I just remember looking at stats, just going, as a gamer, as someone who had used video games as a tool for ministry in high school, when I was in youth group, and other times where I was a youth pastor before this job. This is my first full-time youth pastor job. And I remember getting this righteous fury of hearing ministries and people say, we go where kids are. And I'm like, well, then who's playing video games with them? Because that's where they are, period. And I got this like righteous fury of like, no, we're not. I started looking at stats of after school programs, kids getting in trouble. Like they don't get in trouble from like at night. They get in trouble from 3 to 5 when school's over, but mom and dad aren't home yet. And there are no video game after school clubs like anywhere at the time. Anywhere in the U.S. I'm like looking everywhere. Bubba, you know this story, man. I'm like looking for people that are doing video game ministry so I don't have to start one myself. I'm like, I'm cool. Like I'll just come under what somebody else is doing. Nobody's doing it. Nobody, zero people on the planet. And I spent months looking and I just said, forget it. And our youth group was called Satellite because our church was a satellite campus of another church. So we said Satellite Youth Group's going to do a gaming night. And we had like 15 kids in our youth group. We promoted it in the public schools because I did a lot of mentoring through the public schools. As a youth pastor, I saw public schools as like my mission field and had a good relationship with the gatekeepers, the admins. I knew their coffee orders. So I come in with a coffee and be like, hey, can I promote this cool event where we're not going to be preaching like a verbal message? And they're like, yeah, we trust you. So we called it Satellite Gaming Night. And as a youth group with 15 kids, it was an all-night event. We had 40 show up. And my senior pastor thought I was crazy, but he's like, 40 kids, do it again. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then 125 showed up and he's like, okay,
Whoa.
Next time you can have $100. Yeah. He's like, next time you can have $100 for pizza. And I'm like,
yeah, pizza.
Bro,
budget,
next
baby.
time I'm charging, next time I'm charging $5 at the door. We're spending it all on pizza. That's what we're doing. So that's kind of the snowball that started it. And the goal was never for it to become a nonprofit, to be honest. Like that was not the goal. That became out of necessity because we eventually started getting like we had one event that had over 500 people as a church of 200, a youth group of 40, and we had 500 people, parents, volunteers, and students at this event in a public school. And the church was like, Jamie, this is too big. This can't be under our church. Our lawyer's like upset with us. We can't keep this under. What do we do? And so we went to a lawyer and they're like, it's at this point, you got to find a church that like has this built into its mission or you got to make your own nonprofit. So it wasn't because I wanted to play like nonprofit simulator. It was because like we just had to. So that's like the encapsulated like origin story of SG. Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. I mean, I feel like every time I hear you tell the origin story of SG, I learn something new. And I love that. And it's not that we're hiding things from people as we're telling the story, but it's like, man, you remember different things about the scenario. It's almost like the Gospels, right? Like it,
it's alive and active, baby.
To a different audience, man. Like it's gonna strike a different thing, and something else will need to be said. So, all right, cool. You get it going. Mm-hmm. Then what? Like, I mean, how does it morph from like just a game night that has 100 billion people that are coming to these after school programs that you start, and then you start training parents, and like, how does that work? How does it morph?
Yeah. Well, I think there are two major steps that you just mentioned that happened. And again, it was all natural. This was really the story of like, Lord, show us where to go. And I'm being churchy here, but like, bro, he did. Like it was very obvious what needed to happen. So our second event, there were 120 people. There were 120 kids, and there were like 30 parents, and the parents were just like standing there, being like, "What am I watching?" I'm like, well, let me explain to you this. What you're watching is, you know how your really cool athlete kid gets his name in the paper because he knows how to throw a leather ball really far? Well, your other kid knows how to build an entire universe from scratch on this thing called Minecraft. And he's actually really, really smart. And he'll probably make 5 times as much money as your kid that thinks he's going to end up playing national football, but he won't. Okay. Well, let me explain to you what's going on. He's really awesome. And all 120 people here know that. And you didn't know that. So now you know. So now we're like, how do we continue to educate? That's really it's really edgy for me to say that. But again, righteous fury, right? It's showing right now. So I'm like, these parents, like we had parents crying. One mom was like, this is the first time my son has ever talked to a girl. And I'm like, yeah, that's because that girl plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And so does he. And they never knew that about each other. And parents crying everywhere. And one of our other leaders, Dylan, at the time, he was on our board. He's like, dude, I want to teach these parents. So we started doing these events moving forward. And to this day, they are bully-free, shoulder-to-shoulder events where students compete and parents learn. So the next event where we had 250, it wasn't actually a separate room. It was just a very thick curtain that separated the esports stadium and the parent education room. So Dylan had to talk really loud, but the parents loved it because he talked about like ESRB ratings, how to better understand your nerdy kid, like good barriers to put for online usage, etc. So that's the parent education format, which is now a big part of what we do. And the second part you mentioned was after school clubs. How these started was the school, after we had 250 people at this really small venue, I got a call from them. And I thought the call was going to be like, hey, your event was at capacity. The one toilet you guys had broke and there were middle school kids peeing outside. So you can never promote an event here again. Time. Yeah, right. It is. And I was like, okay. And I swear, I thought they were going to say, so we will never let you promote this at our schools again. But no, they said, hey, the Yu-Gi-Oh kids are the cool kids now, and they're all wearing like these shirts with satellites on them. And we heard like calls from parents that it was really cool, and they're thanking us as the school, but we're like, it wasn't us. So can you start hosting those events here at the public school? Okay, I was doing a study on the book of Ezra at the time, bro. Like on the book of Ezra, which if you haven't read it, it is like, hey, we're going to kill the Christians for building this temple. By the end of the book, they're like, no, the Christians are building the temple. We're going to help them. We're going to kill anybody that tries to stop them. The school district didn't go that far. Okay.
That's
but
good.
That's good. But they did say, we're going to let you use the building for free. Because I was like, your building's so expensive. Like, no, we're actually going to pay you to use the building because we're going to make you one of our offered after school clubs. And once you're one of our after school clubs, you'll benefit from the grant that we have. I was like, okay, bet. So I show up with a bunch of gear and you're going to pay us to do what we already need to do. And they're like, yup. So from then on, I mean, we now run 13 after school programs a week with an average of like 11 kids at each program. Very involved with the public school district. And I think it's just because it's like the story of like Elijah, where my friend writes this devotional on it, just called what do you call it? Like a sandwich and a nap. Like Elijah had practical needs. He needed food, and that man needed a nap. And God didn't say like, Elijah, quit crying, get up, get off. He's like, you know what? You do need a sandwich, and you do need a nap. I'm going to satisfy these practical needs, and then we're going to talk. So what we did was we're like, what are the practical needs the school district has? Let's start there. And the Lord kind of did the rest. And it was really cool. We weren't super creative. We just saw a need and we filled it. And the Lord opened the rest of the doors. And now we're super cool friends at the public school. And they know we love Jesus. And they keep giving us money. So I don't know. It's crazy.
Which is really, I mean, if you even think about it surface level for just 1 second, it is fascinating. Because the talk about the separation of church and state is everywhere. I mean, you hardly can get through a conversation in a municipality without having that kind of a thing.
And I'm in Oregon, bro.
Saying, oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. If it can happen here, it can happen anywhere, bro.
I mean, Oregon, statistically speaking, is one of the most under-churched like areas, the whole Pacific Northwest. That's where a lot of mega churches go because that stat is what it is. But at the end of the day, you've got them coming to you because you're creating, you're filling a need that they have. You're not creating problems just to solve them.
And I think we provided something that was, it's hard to say that it was excellent. And it's even hard to say that it is excellent. You know what I mean? Like we really pursue that. But we provided something that really scratched an itch and people went like, yeah, we do need that. Like we need that sandwich. Like we have this practical need. And I think this is a little soapbox. Actually, it's probably more your soapbox than it is mine, Bubba, but I'm going to steal it from you for a moment. And it is that like, sometimes we just need to do a thing well and let the excellence of that product be our gospel message. And people will ask, why is that so good? And you'd be like, because it's washed in the blood of Jesus, bro. Obviously not that overt, but you know what I mean, right? Like you and I have talked about this a lot in group settings and one-on-one settings. Like just deliver a good product and people will kind of drop their jaws and wonder why it's so good.
And I think that you're seeing a lot of success, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but like, let's get into some of the opportunities that you've had ministerially because of what I would consider getting outside of the building, right? So you hit the cap inside of your actual physical church building, which I think is totally cool. Let's use those spaces we have as starting points, right? God has given us those areas and those spaces for a reason. But whenever you have experienced the glass ceiling, which does exist, if you don't think it does, you haven't been in long enough, because it absolutely does exist. When you experience the glass ceiling, then what? In order to grow, you've got to open the lid and you got to go somewhere else. And so getting outside of the actual church, maybe even the organization entity of the church, into the place where the people are, finding those wells, the Samaritan woman at the well, finding those places where people go. All of the kids that are not homeschooled and not private schooled go to public school.
Yeah.
The cap is still there.
That's a lot of
but
kids.
It's so much higher. Right. And so being able to fill that space and that capacity. Jamie, talk about some of the places just in your local area that have also reached out to you and opened up for satellite to come in.
Yeah. What's crazy is I don't know that if I told you the most recent one that I talked to last week, maybe I did, but we got a call just last week. Dude, we got a call last week, and I'll be careful, but it is a city that has 26,000 people. They have 2 middle schools, and I got a call from I got a message. He went to our website, used the contact form, all formal about it. Hey, I'm in this district. I actually work for the city. I'm not a school employee, city employee, and we have 2 middle schools. And in the school year of 22 to 23, we had 2,000 days of suspension in our 2 middle schools for gang-related activity. In a city of 26,000 people, they had 2,000 days of suspension across 2 middle schools. Middle schoolers, that's 10 years old to 14 if you've been held back, bro. That's 10 if you start early. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. And 40 arrests from 22 to 23. 40 arrests. They have no after-school programs. They reached out to us. I don't even know who told them about us. I don't know how they heard about us. I asked, and they're like, yeah, we got this person at this church mentioned you, and then this person that sits on our board here, and then this person that works at the school district in Salem reached out to us, and blah, 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 heard about our problems, said, you got to get satellite gaming. And I'm so again, you hit this threshold of okay, our goal is to have a club in every single school in Salem Kaiser that wants one. And then what? And the Lord's that's a good goal, Jamie, but what about this city? What about this town? And so now we're having conversations with them, and I'm yeah, we have to be there. Let's dude, let's hang out with some gangsters, bro. Let's go. Yeah. And I'm ready, man. That's a lot of our students, because we serve schools that are impoverished and they qualify for 21st century grant. That's a lot of the culture that we actually reach, is these kids who, a real story. Mom's doped out on the couch, and dad's down the street sleeping with who knows who at who knows where. So the kid after the club at 5 o'clock is hanging out in the parking lot, that we have these little tactful things we do called blacktop talks, where hey, school's out, program's over. I happen to have a soccer ball and a skateboard in my car and some snacks. So if you're just chilling in the parking lot, man, I was planning on eating some anyway, and we just end up talking to these kids for another couple hours. And, it's crazy to me how, again, doing Jesus stuff, this other city near us hears about. So that's one example of how semi-locally people hear about it and ask us to be a part of things. We're doing a 8th grade graduation in Malala, which is 40 minutes away from here. I'm oh yeah, so-and-so recommended us to you. And I'm I don't know who that is, but praise the Lord. Yeah. So cool, man. That's more schools, right? Filling the mission that you feel God has on your heart and on your ministry. Yeah. But outside of even school stuff, you've had sports teams reach out to you guys. Yeah, we actually just had a meeting with them yesterday too. We are it's kind of weird, but there's it was minor league baseball. They run their own league, and they asked us to, hey, can you host a little esports mini arena within our baseball stadium. And, you know, after COVID, like baseball, like watching a baseball game is even less popular than it was before COVID. So they're trying to do things to gain traffic and stuff. But yeah, we had a couple organizations, them being one of them, and Christian Bookstore being another one, that said, hey, we'll pay for some of the gear to furnish that place. And got it looking like pretty cool. Like we're upgrading it again this year. But yeah, we just go to like 3 or 4 games a week, and like in between innings and stuff. And like when the kids get bored at about the first inning, they come over and they come over and they hang out with us and play some video games. But it ends up being cool because it's a way for parents to get their kids to come to the game. And then on purpose, we shut it down a little early so the kids, you know, have other things they can do. But yeah, there's that. And then, I mean, then there's other like gaming ministry opportunities that come up. Like Portland's just this hot spot, bro. We got game developers. We have people that are like building, probably the most concentrated area of like hosting Christian like Minecraft servers and Ark servers, and like just all these ministries sprouting up that are like video game ministries. And it's people that have been here for decades that like I just didn't know. And I'm like, wow, right here in Salem, Oregon, God's doing something. It's pretty cool, you know? So I don't know, man. Oregon's, or if you want to do some nerd culture ministry, you want to feel welcome, like hop on over to the Pacific Northwest. But you be ready. It's a little crazy over here.
Yeah, but buckle up for other things. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting hotbed. Yeah. And so because of all the things that you've been doing, and honestly, because of the success that you've seen doing that, it's one thing to do something and for it to fail often and publicly, but you've seen a lot of success in that. So talk about some of the global stuff. This is another area that you and I, you know, kind of overlap in. Talk about some of the global stuff that you've been able to do as far as, you know, satellite gaming and nerd culture ministry goes.
Yeah, and I this is something you've called me out on, so I'm getting better at it. But I don't want to talk down on myself or on satellite gaming. So I'm going to lean to the other extreme for a moment, and it's going to sound arrogant, but it's more just saying this is just the reality of the situation. When COVID hit, there were a good number of people that had really cool ideas for how to do video game ministry. Satellite gaming had already been established and operating on a local level for like 2 or 3 years. Like we were already doing it. It was a proof of concept and it was working. So when COVID hit, a lot of people, and this is where we get into global context, they said, how do we do video game ministry? And there were people gathering, having those conversations, starting ideas. And I got invited to this group that was part of a global sport movement originally. And, you know, sports back in the day had some of the same struggles we do with, like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. They're like, the soccer ball has pentagrams on it. Like, it's an evil game, you know? It's like, wait a sec. Wait, what? So they had to like convince churches that like, yes, soccer was an okay thing to do in churches. And that might seem silly, but it was a real fight that they fought. So now here we are talking about video games, you know, like Diablo and games with shooting in them. Like legitimate concerns exist. I'm not insulting that at all. But now video game ministry is coming up because it's COVID, and that's all anybody wants to do is play video games. And Fortnite had recently come out, so they're playing it even more. And this global ministry reaches out to us. It's a movement. It's not an organization. It's similar to the Nerd Culture Ministry Collective in that it is cohort feeling. It's a group of people representing different pockets of the world, different pockets of ministry, different nonprofits. And they just said to us, hey, will you come be on this call? And it was actually Chris who originally invited me to it. I was like, yeah, I'll be on the call. And then I don't think Chris ever went to another call again.
He did not. No.
He and I laugh about that. He's like, that's not my jam. And I'm like, well, it's mine. So thanks. See you, bro. Yeah. I think then he started to. Yeah. And I was like, this is cool. And they started asking questions. And it just so happened that like, I was thinking at the time, like, I'm not a super genius, but I know the answer to that question. And I also know the answer to that question. And I also hear you saying you want to try that, and it's not going to work because we tried it. And this is and suddenly I was like, I think for the first time in my life, I'm the smart person in the room. What do I do with this? and praise the Lord, because I met some of my mentors on that first call, who are now my mentors. I think through the movement, Bubba, is probably how you and I like connected the most, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most solid connection.
Yeah, that you and I have, and we rub shoulders a lot. But it was like, that was something that like kind of we were both established ministries in that space. So we were kind of like answering a lot of the questions. We were also willing to like ask our own questions and have those be answered. And I think we've both been very humbled in that space. But because we had already had proof of concept by the time COVID started, people around the world needed video game ministry to reach people. And we already had proofs of concept. So we really got to be leaders in that space and still get to operate kind of in that way. And man, I went from there. They invited me to this really intense training that happened for 3 months in South Africa. My wife and I prayed about it intently. I said no. And then one day my wife just started crying and she's like, you need to go to South Africa. I'm like, you're crazy. You're crazy. And it was great. My wife was actually born in South Africa, which I don't know if you knew that, but that's
I did
nuts,
not
dude.
know that.
Yeah. So that's where she was born. So I'm like, here I am. And she's so mad because it's her dream to go back. And now I'm going to like live there for 3 months. And I had 21 roommates from 17 different countries. And this is a school that's been going on for a few decades now, maybe a couple and a half. I don't know. But that's like where I got my real training for global ministry. And it really taught me like, how do you communicate at a global level? Like, not because it requires a certain level of intellect, it just requires different tact, you know, like it's just a different setting. And I still don't do a great job of it at times. I catch myself like using words that like only work here in America, you know, and I'm like, geez, how do I do this? But man, now I get to do a training with like, I'm training like guys in like all over Eurasia, not going to name countries, but all over Eurasia, like think of the worst things that are happening. And I get to influence like how video game ministry happens in those spaces. I'll be in Thailand this year. I work with a team from Egypt twice a month and they're doing crazy cool stuff. And like the list goes on. I don't need to go on with all these accolades, but the idea is, yeah, because we started so early, we were kind of pioneers in this space. And sometimes I'm like, okay, if I'm Moses, Lord, just show me who the Joshua is and I'll get out the way. But like, I haven't seen him yet, so I'm here for it. I feel like more like Caleb sometimes, where it's like, yo, let's just go. Like, I don't care how scary this is. Like, let's get it. Let's get it. And thanks for being that Joshua too, where we can both look at each other and be like, yo, man, this is crazy, right? But like, screw these giants. We're going anyway.
Like,
dude,
it is very encouraging to hear all that stuff. And I know that you don't like to toot your own horn. I know that. That's one thing that I've learned over the years.
I like to toot. Sometimes I like to toot, but not my horn.
Big tooter. Yeah. Sometimes I gotta pump you up a little bit because it's good to hear those stories. It's good for people who are just starting out to go, it doesn't always have to be just scraping and clawing for every inch that you get. No. When you move in the direction that God is calling you to move in, not necessarily a direction that you're like, I really just want to do this. Like, this is something that I have my own personal goal of. But when you move in the direction that God is calling you and do the thing that he is calling you to do, he just blesses it, right? And this isn't like a prophetic thing that I'm just blanket statementing across the board. But if God is calling you into that thing and you do it, even something as stupid as video games, right? We always talk about as dumb as like tabletop gaming is. It's just like pushing plastic and cardboard around on a table. Like, God sees that. He sees the heart behind it and he blesses it. And now you have global reach, right? It's bonkers. It's crazy. And the best part about it is that God took and is taking things that you did locally in Salem Kaiser, right? Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
One of the darkest, most unreached areas of the United States, a superpower in the world, regardless of what your political ideation or affiliation is, right? In all of that stuff, and is allowing you, because of something that you did in the darkest of places, to shine light across the globe. Like, if that ain't the story of the gospel, I literally have no idea what is. Yeah,
man. That's it.
And all
I got nothing to say on that. That's it, bro.
You were willing, like you were willing to say, okay, we'll start doing this thing. We'll start doing after school programs. Okay, you want me to go and be on this global call? Cool, I'll go do it. All right, you want me to? You didn't say that you lead that team. Okay, cool. I'll go do it as far as like gaming is concerned. okay, cool, I'll go, be a part of all these different things. Like, it was just that take the next hill mentality, right?
Yeah.
We never would come up with these ideas ourselves. We just wouldn't.
No.
But when they're presented,
and actually,
just say yes. Explore it.
Yeah. I want to say something to that because, and I want to be careful because I don't mean this as a blanket statement. I'm going to speak to myself. I did not want to start a nonprofit. I think I already said that, but I want to emphasize, like, I wasn't like, I'm going to do gaming ministry. So what's the first step? First step, start a Twitch stream. Second step, start a Discord. Third step, get a nonprofit. No, I was like, I want to be about this mission. What are things I have to do to make that happen? And we did some Twitch streaming and we realized there's already some Christians out there doing some Twitch streaming. We don't need to provide that. I can point them to them. Okay, we don't need to do a Discord yet because we have local kids that I can be hanging out with. And I don't need a nonprofit because I got this youth group. So to me, I wasn't even going like, oh, I want this thing and that. I was just like, Lord, I'm going to keep doing this. And when I can't do it no more, tell me how I can do it more. And at one point it was like, okay, Jamie, you're going to need a Discord because some of your kids are now moving to a different location. Okay, Jamie, you are going to need a nonprofit because it's now grown beyond your location. Okay, Jamie, you are going to need to expand beyond Salem Kaiser because what you're doing is so awesome. It'd be selfish to keep it to only Salem Kaiser. Okay, Jamie, you are going to need to create a parent education ministry because parents are showing up at your events and they have no idea what the heck's going on. Last thing, okay, Jamie, you are going to do global ministry once again because US cannot keep them for this for themselves. And also, Brazil's kind of kicking everybody's butt when it comes to youth ministry with video games.
Oh my gosh.
Jamie, you're going to learn from them. And I'm like, there it is. Like, I like it. So not one single time, Bubba, did I do a thing because I wanted to. I do. I'm selfish. That happens all the time. But in terms of like the trajectory of satellite gaming, I thought of the end. I want to point students to Jesus Christ by building a relationship with video games. And when it was time to make a nonprofit, I did. And I think today, if I started satellite gaming today, I probably wouldn't start it as a nonprofit. I would probably just find somebody that's already doing that and just do the thing until I had to do another thing to make it work. Does that make sense?
I'm crazy ahead of the show notes, man. Yeah, we really love to ask if you could go back. Excuse me, if you could go back to when you started satellite and tell baby Jamie something, like what would it be? And I think that you just kind of nailed it, man.
Well, yeah. I think that is the answer to it. Like that's how I would answer it today, knowing what I know now. But I also think like, man, what would I tell baby Jamie? I actually want to rewind a little bit and go to when I was 15. I was 15. I would talk to that Jamie because people say like, oh, the first satellite gaming event happened at this venue called Bible Book House, which is torn down now. Rest in peace. But no, the first satellite gaming event happened when I was in high school. I'm not going to tell that story now. But the short of it is I was the nerdy Christian kid, came from a Christian school. I had some game back then. So, everybody was like, little Christian kid should come to this party. You know what I mean? We'll get him, high, drunk and maybe get some action for his first time ever. And they're like, Halo's going to be there. I'm like, oh, Halo's going to be there. Yeah. So I told my parents, like, I'm going to go to this party. And they're like, it's like a party. You're like the nerdy Christian kid. I'm like, I know. But Mom, I don't know if you know this, but I got some game and I know how to play some games. Halo's going to be there. And my dad's like, you got to go kick everybody's butt. I was like, I do. You're right, Dad. You're right. And if you get tempted, you call us on your little razor phone. Don't you smoke weed? Don't you smoke any beers? So I show up at this event, dude, this party, and I just like beeline it to the Xbox. There's weed, there's booze. I don't even know if there's girls, but I'm like, where's the controller? And man, I kicked everybody's butt that night. And from then on in high school, I was known as Halo. And I want to speak to that moment because at that moment, my parents said, Jamie, I know you don't want to go to those parties anymore. Cause I was like, it's a matter of time before they influence me. And I remember saying, but how do I be a light in a dark place if I'm never going into any dark places? I was 15, 16. I think I was 16 at the time. And my parents were like, why don't you start hosting the Halo parties at our house? And I was like, yeah, cause everybody's going to come to the Christian kid's house on New Year's Eve. Sure enough, they did, dude. We started packing our house with 50 kids every major party holiday. And if I could say one thing to myself, knowing what I know now, I'll go to 15-year-old Jamie and I'd be like, start satellite gaming right now. Don't wait till you're 27. Start satellite gaming when you're 15 years old. And there might be some young people that listen to this. There might be some parents with some young people that listen to this. Like, don't wait for your kid to be old enough to start a nonprofit. Your kid can do ministry right now and it can be powerful. It could be powerful, man. So that's who I would talk to. Real baby Jamie, 15-year-old Jamie. Starting now. Yeah.
Can't even walk yet. Yeah.
I can't even walk yet. Yeah.
Still pooping his diaper. 15-year-old Jamie.
And you're putting video games before girls. Like, what in the world, you knucklehead? Oh my goodness. Not smart.
Well,
do that.
I think it worked out for you. So,
yeah.
Well, so Jamie, we talked about a couple of things, and as we start to wrap up this episode of the podcast, this is not it. This isn't the end of it. We're going to invite everybody to come and be a part of the collective, to be a part of our Discord. You can do that by going to ncmcollective.com, and all the links will be there on that page. But also, how can we get in touch and involved, and what maybe are some of your greatest needs with Satellite?
Thanks. I appreciate that. So satellitegaming.net is going to be our website. You can find us on some socials, primarily Instagram, Facebook, Satellite GG. And I think if you want to know more about what we do, use a little contact form on Satellite Gaming's website. I mean, that's going to be the best way to just follow a couple steps and reach out to us. The biggest need that we have right now, I would say is more in terms of rallying church people to understand the value of video game culture. And I think we've done a lot of, and I've done this because I believe it to be true. I think we've done a lot of, hey, church, you realize how bad you hurt nerds? Hey, church, you realize how bad you hurt nerds? And I think they get it. Maybe some of them don't. I'm not really worried about those people. If I've been telling you that for 7 years, and if you still don't think that you hurt some D&D kids, like, I'm not going to waste my time talking. I'm sorry. Like, if you still don't get it, but there are a lot of churches that are like, okay, we get it. We hurt the Pokemon kids. We hurt the D&D kids. Now what? Come hang out with us at Nerd Ministry Collective. Come hang out with us at Go Game, the global movement. Like, just get a hold of LTN, get a hold of Satellite Gaming. We can teach you and equip you to be ready to just go and do it. So this is a shout out to the churches that get it, that understand it. Rally your churches. I'm a big fan of local ministry. That we don't do digital ministry because there's great organizations like Love Thy Nerd and other people doing digital ministry like at a very high level. We do digital ministry, but we don't do Twitch streams. I spend most of my time doing local stuff. So rally your local church, and we're ready to teach them. So that's what you can do for us, is rally your people.
Yeah, if I'll add to that, if you're interested in starting an after-school program, or what we didn't talk about is Satellite does a lot of tournaments. They've got really good structure for that. How to create those events in your space, whether it's your church or at a municipality after-school program or a church camp or whatever. They can create and help you create spaces, even if it's just stealing the model. Like that's kind of where we're at. Like.
Yeah, and take our discipleship program too. Like, just take it. It's like, take our logo off of it. I don't care, man. I mean, I do. But
well, that's a lot of what we talk about. You briefly mentioned the name Go Game. That's the global movement that we're a part of, and that you help to lead. And so, if you are interested in being a part of global gaming culture and the movement, and allowing things like really cool video game ministry that will be happening at the Olympics in Paris this year, like really dope stuff that's happening that you would never have the opportunity to be a part of or influence or even know about. The show notes will have all that information for Go Game and how you can join our monthly calls that we do on Friday at stupid 30 in the morning for most people. No shade to Jamie, but it's really good. So if you want to be a part of any of that stuff, and if you're like, hey, this actually what Satellite is doing would work really great in my context, contact Jamie. He would love to resource you. And I know I'm speaking over him and for him, but I know as a friend, I know that he would love to resource you to do the good work of Jesus Christ by way of video game ministry in your space. So don't think you can't. Just contact him and at least have the conversation if you're interested.
And if you can't, there's a 16-year-old who can. So have them call me.
Freaking bingo, my guy. Like that's when we said that you're gonna be a part of NCMS in 2024, and that's true. To what degree? Man, I have no clue. I don't think any of us know. So excited to figure it out and to kind of see what that looks like. But
just don't. I'm not going to be the childcare guy.
Well, again, we'll talk about it. But if you want to have conversations with Jamie, you're going to want to join us at NCMS, the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit in 2024. I will tell you that we're looking at the first 2 weeks in November, same basic time frame as we did last year. All that information is on the horizon. It is coming. Like I said, we hope by next episode to have that information and sign-up links and all sorts of good stuff for you. But hey, Jamie, dude, thank you so much for being a part of my life personally, my life professionally through Love Thy Nerd, and then also joining with me as a brother in arms in nerd culture ministry in all of its various contexts, dude. There's so much stuff that we couldn't do without you. So we're real grateful for you.
Thanks, brother.
Hey,
love you, man.
We want to invite everybody else to come and follow Satellite on all the stuff. Like I said, it's going to be in the show notes. Follow LTN, be a part of the Nerd Culture Ministry Collective, all the cool things that we've got going on. And we like to tell you this. If no one else tells you it, just remember it's true. Jesus loves you, nerds.